how's it going, guys? Welcome to Audio Addiction. We have Output 111, and he can say his name and what he does in the band.
Hi, I'm Daniel Janvier. I write and perform most of the music. Uh,
There we go. Well,
yeah.
that's all we need to know about, And obviously, the first question is like, I guess if you do all of the stuff relating to the music, like what made you, start with music? Like, what was your first introduction to like music and like wanting to do it? Either just for fun or like just kind of like the first initial thoughts of like I want to be playing music and doing that sort of thing.
Um, I think I got a lot of my interest in music from my older brother.
Okay.
Um, he started getting into playing guitar and uh, pop punk and skater punk when we were like 10 or 12.
Okay.
Um, And I remember going into this local guitar shop and seeing this bass in the used section, and just like just a red, I think it was a jazz bass. It could have been a P bass, a
Hmm.
Fender, um, but it had one of those like sparkly pick guards.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, and to a 10-year-old mind, it was like bright red and sparkly, and I was like, ooh. And it really, yeah, I got really drawn into the shiny colors. Um, and I think I was at the time really into Blink 182, and I think they also had a lot of shiny pick guards and may have used a jazz bass at least once or twice in music videos. So that was like the first kind of like visual exciting cue. And as I got older, I just I don't think it's a very unique thing to find music as an effective you know sense of escape.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, like it can be meditative. It can be just as exciting and challenging as lifting weights or running a marathon. It can be surprisingly competitive when you're in a band.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I found songwriting just to I don't know. It just sort of became a way of starting with passing the time and a hobby, and then just really engaging with uh, some sort of abstract struggle or something internal. And that's sort of where I'm at now with it, is approaching that something internalized that I don't quite understand and trying to get a better sense of it.
No, that's it's a really cool way to view it. I feel like I can definitely feel a lot of those sorts of ideas. Obviously, I have one of my guitars here in my like little studio office. Um, but it's crazy kind of because I have like kind of a similar. Well, I don't have an older brother, but I like got into music as an escape from like reality and stuff like that. I feel like a lot of people kind of have a similar way of going about it, or if like their parents played or something like that and they kind of like, you know, fell into that sort of funnel of like, well, my parents play, like maybe I should play, stuff like that. Um, but I could definitely resonate with what a lot of you're saying, and like I feel like I'm an okay guitar player, and then I was just like, well, I'll just do this for fun, and I get to see other people's like viewpoints and perspective like on music, and I think that that's taught me a lot more about myself than I would probably care to admit. But um, it's cool to see like your ideology in terms of music, and I laughed at certain things because I felt like it is true, especially the more band related things being competitive and stuff like that, and just having like that like you want to be better than somebody else, whether it's like in a like a fun, like nurturing sort of way, or just like I just want to be the best shredder on the face of the earth. Uh, but that was really cool. And then like, what kind of like, in terms of your music, because I feel like it's very eclectic. Because I was able to listen to a little bit of it before we like hopped on.
Oh,
Like,
cool.
who do you think like I guess like inspired you to like write music? Like, what was the first like instantation of like you're like, I really want to do this music thing. Like I just want to like sit in my room or like my office and just like come up with some like cool riffs or like, musical parts, and then just actively like, where we're at now, where we're literally, well, I'm literally interviewing you. Like, how did it come to be where everything kind of formulated where you wanted to write your own stuff, I guess?
I'm trying to remember how old I was. I think I was 15 or 14, maybe a bit younger. And the first time I wrote a song that, well, actually, the very first song I remember writing was incredibly Blink 182 influenced,
Yeah,
right
that's
down
true.
to the fart jokes, um, which did not carry over into the new material
Oh man.
in an obvious way. Um, but yeah, I think the first time I wrote a song that when I was younger, that I felt proud of at the time, I essentially challenged myself to try and rewrite "Street Spirit" by Radiohead.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, because the first thing my brain thought was, that's a really dumb way to say it. First thing I thought was,
It's all good. That's the little bit of the pressure of an interview,
yeah,
but it's cool.
well, don't worry, in a few minutes I'm gonna start talking about jujitsu and DMT. Um, uh, yeah, the first thing I thought was like, may as well try and rip off something I really enjoy and see if I can learn something through that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I just started with trying to write lyrics to that melody, and then eventually I figured out how to write bass lines or chord patterns. Um, and I was in a band for a little bit in Toronto here.
Okay.
Um, and some of the people who were involved in that band helped out with this project in some
Oh,
way.
nice.
So,
Awesome.
yeah, Sean, who is the producer, is my oldest friend. Um, he also played a little bit on it. He played well, he played a little bit. He played a good amount.
Give
Oh,
him
I
some
got
credit there.
he
Give him
made
some
the thing
credit,
sound
Dan. You
good.
can give him credit.
Yeah, yeah. He made, if anyone enjoys the album, I do believe that he is in large part responsible for that. Because he helped really make a lot of it sound good. But I was in a band with him and Eli, who directed the videos that we put out.
Nice.
Um, and Eli and I got very competitive. Or at least I projected competitiveness onto him because it seemed like he was able to write songs very effortlessly, and and it wasn't even that long ago I was still doing it, but I was writing for an audience in mind, and I think that audience were fans of The National.
Okay.
So like I hadn't discovered any kind of identity at that point. It was just sad guy, which is still kicking around. I think I addressed that part a bit more honestly, but yeah, at that time I was sort of writing songs and not necessarily like I felt a connection to them because I wrote them and created them,
Yeah,
but
sure. Yeah.
um, it still felt a bit like a fraud doing it, and I think that was one of the things that was one element of many things that led to like a cluster of panic attacks that I had in
Oh man.
2016. Yeah, it was rough, and if anyone hears the record and after hearing me say a bunch of panic attacks, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, totally," because it gets sonically violent at parts. Um, but once I started putting that into the music and listening to artists that I respected deal with their own trauma through music, like Nick Cave was a huge example. He
Okay.
just put out, yeah, I think during one of the songs we were working on, I had just watched One More Time with Feeling, and there were just ideas that I I didn't rip off this time, but yeah, there were elements that were eye opening. Like the song didn't need to be descriptive or narrative. It didn't need
Yeah.
to be obvious. Like people can pick up on what you're trying to express through more than words or repetition. I think that's a really long-winded answer to your question.
No, 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 no. And I people always say that too, like when they come on and stuff. And I was like, I appreciate the explanation and just the thought behind it, because I feel like when people are a little bit more honest and open about how they like treat their music, I think I tend to enjoy the music that much more, because there's like, there's some level of heart and like character behind it, and it's not just like, you know, somebody just making music that like seems relatively unknown to a lot of people, but may do this as like an outlet to, free themselves from like daily troubles and stuff like that. And um it's I did feel that way, like when you mentioned like the panic attack stuff and like the kind of sporadicness of how your writing is and stuff like that. I didn't really put it all. I didn't put it all together, and then I had that like epiphany just now of like, oh wow, that's okay. Now it makes sense a little bit more. Um, but I think it's really cool, like when somebody's just open and honest about it, whether or not it's something that's like obviously not easy to like explain or elaborate, in an interview more or less than anything. And especially the fact that we've literally just met and this is the first introduction. But I think, whenever that happens, I think it's really, a breaking of the ice, you may say. And so, I appreciate you for opening up, Dan, and I definitely feel like that was some of the elements that I got from like the writing and stuff, and hopefully people can kind of, recognize and kind of draw the comparisons and the analysis of like what you're doing in the music and like how it transpires to what you write and stuff. So, I appreciate that as somebody who is just like obviously a fan of music, but also just, having that open line of like communication and being able to be like forward about it, I guess, per se.
No, thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, we're gonna move it into some more lighthearted stuff. So,
Yeah,
you
not
obviously.
possible.
So the next question is, obviously you're from Toronto, but what are some, and I don't know if you've played any shows yet, but what are some favorite venues around in the Toronto area that, if you've played there, you can talk about, and then maybe if you haven't, like venues that you like in Toronto that you've seen shows at.
Sure. I mean, Toronto is, I'm not sure how prevalent this is in the indie music scene across the states, and I assume it is. You get a lot of great venues that then get priced out.
I got you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. Yeah.
And then you get a lot of great musicians that like move to an area but then get evicted so the landlord can turn it into an Airbnb.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're dealing with that right now. Not me specifically, but people in Toronto. A lot of very active and intelligent activists are working with the city on that. But that's it. That's nice. To your actual question, the first show we're gonna play with this project is on Thursday next week.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Congrats. Good
Thank you.
luck.
Thank you. Yeah. It's just going to be me and another local musician, a guy named Mike Robbins.
Okay.
He's on SoundCloud under that name. If anyone wants to check him out, check out the song "Houses." It's got some incredible lyrics, and he's a beautiful singer. And he reached out to me on Facebook after I did like a series of postings.
Yeah.
So it'll be him and I, and I'll be playing bass, run through a series of effects, and expressively singing while Mike will do some actual singing. That'll be at 9 o'clock at a place called Today Tonight, which is thankfully right across the street from my apartment. Yeah, it's a
better
really
location, right?
yeah, it's really cool. It's a small venue. It functions as a cafe during the day, and at night they run live music and comedy nights as well. As far as I know, it's mostly been acoustic stuff, so I'm hoping we're going to be the loudest show that they've done. And I've warned the owner about it, the owners, but they're both really cool people, so they're they're open to what we're gonna do. Favorite venues? I like, there's one called the Painted Lady on Ossington. That's
Okay.
a really cool spot. Um, there's a great show I played with my previous band. We were around 5 members at a place called the Rivoli,
Okay.
which is a slightly bigger one. And that show was great just because of how loud we got to be. And I found that really helpful to like kind of escape into the performance.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Like, especially at the level that band was at, we were still quite small. So you have audience and then you have people just at the bar. So when you're too loud to hear the people at the bar, you just hear the sounds around you and you're like,
Yeah.
singing into it. It was it takes you to a different spot. And
Sure.
then like, yeah, I hope it gives a much more exciting performance, but it feels that way doing it.
Yeah, I always ask that because I actually, ironically enough, I had another band from Toronto on a couple weeks ago, and
Yeah.
I asked the same question to them, and they had mentioned those too. So next time I go back to Toronto, I will have to go check those places out because when I went to Sneaky, uh,
Oh, I
listen
haven't
to
played
them.
Sneaky D's, but yeah, I used to go there not long after I graduated. Like it's big on nachos and
Yeah.
beer. I've seen a few like metal shows there.
Yes, yeah. Usually,
But
I'm
yeah.
more aligned with the metal crowd, but I try to like this, very much like this. I try to branch out and do different stuffs. But so yeah, so I had went there, but I know there's tons of venues in Toronto, and I thought it was awesome. I went there kind of as like a vacation kind of show thing. So I will have to come back to Toronto. I definitely do want to, but. My next question, Dan, to kind of follow up the venues, what was the last show that you attended that you didn't play?
Um, that was Bon Iver and Feist
Oh,
at
nice.
yeah, it was a great show. It was at Scotiabank, which is like our it's where our hockey team and basketball teams play.
It's like an arena show, pretty
Yeah,
much.
our main stadium, yeah. Um, and instead of pit standing, it was seated, which
Yeah.
as I get older, I can kind of appreciate. Like I've seen plenty of great shows there standing. Like the week before, we saw Tom York there,
Oh,
and
nice.
that was pit standing, and that was great. And a little bit over a year ago, I took my dad to see Nick Cave in the Bad Seeds there, and
Oh, nice. Okay.
yeah, that was also in the pit. Yeah, I think those kind of shows, if you're not in the pit, I don't really know how you're having a good time. That's a really pretentious thing to say, but that's been my experience. It's just been like, oh yeah, this is fun. I'm far removed. The music's cool, but like, like seeing like an expression of, um, like at the Tom York show, towards the end, he just does this sort of like very much in his own element. He does this kind of like extreme expression of gratitude that was like
Yeah.
he didn't say anything. He just walked around and he like stood in front of this section and then he just like held his arms out and he looked like really appreciative with like this childlike glee. Um, and it's for one thing, it was unusual seeing him smile, like especially like in that kind of way. But it was also really cool to have that sort of one-on-one connection. Um, well, not one on like 1,000, but
Yeah.
still like it
I knew
was,
what you meant.
yeah, yeah. The Nick Cave one, my dad had never seen a rock show especially that close, and Nick gets right into your face.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you jump around. He's not much younger than my dad, but like seeing him jump around and like slam his fists into the stage, and like seeing my dad just go from being real nervous at how tight and claustrophobic the scene was to like grabbing my arm with glee. Like he just turned. He was like, ah! Yeah, that was an awesome show. But yeah, last show was probably at that arena show, I think.
I can I have a similar story about like something seeing like older bands and like the seating. Like so I live close to Philadelphia and I went to go see the Who. Uh it's been a couple years now, but that was like the last bigger show. And they had the show in the uh hockey. So it's basically like the if this is like the stage here, it basically it, like I don't even know how to describe it. I guess kind of like a half moon sort of a thing, and then like the back, obviously no one was back there, even though there was seats. Um, but it felt very weird because like the Who played for like probably close to 2 hours,
Yeah.
and you're just standing there, and then like and then you're just like the seat's nice, but it just feels weird because like you're at a rock show, so you're like just standing there watching or like sitting there watching the Who play. It just felt very like odd. Like some people were like sitting and just like watching it and like being excited about it, and there are some
Yeah.
people that were like standing like completely blocking you. Like if you're like sitting there and like you're literally just seeing the back of the person in front of you, and so then obviously you stand up and then you're blocking somebody else behind you, and you just feel like a kind of like dickhead by just like
Yeah.
blocking somebody else. So then you sit back down. So I don't personally like it, and just also because I'm like more DIY. I love like the real like small scene like intimate shows. So it's like just the like comparison between the two. I can definitely assimilate with how you felt about like just sitting in a seat for Bon Iver. It just felt like it would feel very awkward for me. So I would imagine probably the similar situation for you.
There was like a give and take with that. Like it was a little awkward because you know, like his stuff gets really wild.
Yeah.
Um, it goes like a far cry from like the gentle acoustic stuff. That's where it is now. Um, but at the same time, I also appreciated like I had a reserved seat, so I
Yeah.
didn't show up like 2 or 3 hours early, and I got it like I got on a pre-sale, so I got like a fairly decent spot. So yeah, it wasn't as like anxious as I've gotten for like even small shows. Like tend to get pretty anxious and like want to be able to get close to the action. Or there's a place here called Lee's Palace. It's the one place that
Okay.
um I don't bother getting close because the pit is so low that like you're cranking your neck. I'm not
Yeah.
tall
Yeah.
enough to get in, but there's a seat area just like right behind the sound booth guy, and the bar is right behind you.
That's the
Yeah,
best.
yeah, it's the perfect spot. So you have the perfect view and sound is great. And um, yeah, and if you want to, you just walk over to the bar and still enjoy and be able to see and hear everything perfectly. So if anyone is watching Goes to Lee's Palace, don't go there because that's my spot.
Don't take Dan's spot.
Um,
That's now on the internet for forever. So, I feel like now this has a spot permanently. But the next question, Dan, we kind of alluded to it earlier, but I guess like more specifically, like who are some of the people that influence you musically? Like we're obviously, I think you kind of mentioned like Radiohead here and there, and obviously Blink, but like, who are some other artists that inspired you to either start playing slash continue playing, and obviously, further your pursuit of music
yeah.
excellence.
I mean, I did, to be honest, I did fall off the Blink 182 wagon at some
I
point in my,
got you. Yeah,
yeah,
same.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's actually been more interesting watching Tom DeLonge's current career than like,
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. Just as like a kind of like experiment. Um, yeah, Radiohead was a huge and still is a huge one. Yeah, I've mentioned Nick Cave a few times. Uh, Portishead,
Okay.
Portishead, especially the album Third. Um, so I remember when I bought that and I was like playing it in the car with my brother, who was still leaning into I guess it's called post-hardcore now or just hardcore, but when
Yeah,
it
yeah.
came out,
Yep.
yeah,
Same. Yeah.
yeah. I think it was called like screamo when I was in high school.
Ah, yes. Yes.
Yeah. But I think, yeah, I think that's considered like an insult. I'm not
It's
sure if it is.
a little. I don't take offense to it because I'm not a genre Nazi, but uh, some people that might be slightly offensive, but it's not. It's just a word. Like I don't
Yeah,
I don't understand the like anger or like rashness about that. But besides the point, you can continue on with with your story.
yeah. Like I guess I mean the post-hardcore is like the sort of like preferred nomenclature. I have no problem. I'll respect something that you like
I
and
got
call
you.
it.
Okay.
Um, the he was into that stuff at the time, and when I
Okay.
put on this record, I think he got angry. And he did the same thing. It was the same thing he did when I put on Bone Machine by Tom Waits.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Um, he got upset and said it sounded like Stomp. And he's more open now, but at that time he I think he had like a very specific like set of songs he liked to listen to, like post-hardcore was his jam. I think like Arcade Fire was too pretentious for him, and uh, Tom Waits considerably more far too pretentious because it would just be like, weird for the sake of weird
Yeah.
from his perspective. But yeah, like it was different, and that excited me, and that Bone Machine excited me as well. Although I never, and I still haven't attempted anything like it outside of like bad impressions of Louis Armstrong that just go into Tom Waits' voice, um, or trying to sing like a Michael McDonald song in a Tom Waits
Oh
voice.
my god.
Um, yeah, I mean that would just conceptually funny. I don't feel like doing it right now. um, yeah, the Bone Machine. The majority of Nick Cave's work, and I think like moving throughout his career, like different records have jumped at me at different times. Like Let Love In is like a return to one. It's got like songs like Lover Man and Red Right Hand and Thirsty Dog and everything like that. And Do You Love Me? But then jumping into like Tender Prey, which is I think somebody described it as him like just expunging all the demons from his brain at the time, which I think was predominantly heroin, but um,
Probably accurate.
yeah, and I felt like that record just for that alone was kind of influential. Uh, and yeah, Skeleton Tree's most recent. Not oh, now it's not his most recent. He put out one 2 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah.
Ghost Tina. But Skeleton Tree was really exciting and expressive, and it was really like what you were talking about earlier, being able to connect with where somebody's at, and like writing songs that are like heartbreakingly sad or deal with something so specific and not being afraid of the vulnerability and not apologizing to it. Like even throughout this interview, I've cracked jokes about being the sad guy. Um, but I don't like that. Like
No,
it's
yeah, no.
a
I
defense mechanism.
appreciate that you say it in a joking way because there plenty times throughout my career I've done a similar thing, so I could definitely respect your style of humor in that respect, and just kind of like being like, wow, that's very similar to how I like joke about stuff. So a match made in heaven. But
Cool.
I caught on to it early, so I was like, okay. I was like, I know what he's getting at and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that's I mean, those are some really great artists. I'm curious if your brother will watch this, and I want to know if your story can be confirmed or denied. So Dan's brother, if you happen to watch this, please comment below. I would love to know the little bit of backstory that you might have or may not remember about it. It would be hilarious. I think I will definitely pin that comment no matter what because I'm just in fact I think it's funny to me, and obviously I'm not interviewing your brother, so I
Yeah.
think it would just be that much funnier.
He
But
always does this.
he always does this.
Uh,
He shows up at this interview. He's never met this guy, and now he's messing with the
the older
comments.
brother's got to take over everything.
Yeah, oh my god. But no, so Dan's brother, if you happen to watch this, that'd be very funny. But getting back to you, just like I do all the artists that you mentioned, like I definitely had listened to in my, span of listening and checking out music. So I definitely feel like in terms of obviously listening to your stuff, I feel like there are definitely comparisons and stuff that you pull from them and obviously take influence from, and it's cool to see that. But to keep it more current, who have you been jamming recently? What's on your Spotify? What have you been listening to?
Let me think about that. Um, because it's partially been those people.
That's
They've all
fine. If
put
you want
out,
to recycle the answer, that's cool.
yeah, the exact same 5-minute answer I
Yeah,
gave. Yeah, because they all put out new records
right.
recently. But um, I mean, tangentially related is Beak. I picked up their EP. Um, they're pretty neat band. You know what? Actually, I'm just gonna pull up my phone quickly just while I look
There
this
you
up.
go.
I'm
That's
not
that's
super
okay.
professional.
We at Audio Addiction are totally cool with you know, look
Just
into the
text
cheat
me.
sheet, that's fine. That I want the most accurate answers I possibly can get, and if you could pull your phone out and give me the most accurate answer, then I am about
I'm
that.
looking for the coolest answer actually. So like, if I got any kind of street cred, um, I jumped back and forth between I'm on the K section right now of my of my media player, and I'm
Oh,
like, oh yeah,
wow.
like Kamasi Washington, Kendrick Lamar, King Cruel. Like, yeah, I listen to those three quite frequently. Um, Kendrick Lamar, I listened to Pimp a Butterfly a lot. I
Oof,
didn't quite get
great.
into Damn as much, but To Pimp a Butterfly was great. It's good. I like Thundercat. I think Thundercat's amazing, and
Yes, he is super underrated. I feel like now
yeah,
he's getting way a little bit more popular, which is awesome. Stupid talented. So
yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned him because I had a feeling because I was like he's gonna mention Thundercat because like he's a bass player. So like I feel like if he doesn't, I'll be very surprised. But I feel like since he has had such a resurgence over like the past year or two, in terms of just popularity. I feel like that was the answer that I was expecting you to give, and I'm glad that you gave it because he's awesome.
All right, so I gotta stop being so predictable.
No, it
Um,
wasn't. It wasn't predictability. It was just like I just put two and two together a little bit, and I was just like, if he hasn't heard of Thundercat, then after the interview, I'd just be like, check out Thundercat.
yeah, I got you. Actually, I reminded myself. I was listening to Lowe's new record a lot, Double
Okay.
Negative.
Yeah.
Um, and there's just something really cool about it. I don't know if they wrote the songs and then recorded everything and then just threw a ton of tape delay over it. But like they managed to do a very polished version of what I want. Music is to like create something that has like a sense of song and rhythm and flow and expression, and then have it not necessarily hidden, but create this new element around it that's
Yeah.
disruptive at times and highlights other parts that you wouldn't normally hear. Like if you have just this, like just at one point in the song having like an overwhelming bass tone that just completely drowns everything. And the Portishead record I mentioned earlier has an element of that. Um, but yeah, I've been listening to a lot of soundtracks as well. Recently, been putting the Annihilation soundtrack on
Nice. Okay.
because that song that they wrote for when she meets the alien.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just an incredible piece of like using music to actually sound like dialogue, like it's a creature speaking to you. Um, that's an incredible one. The Suspiria soundtrack's been getting a lot of play.
Okay. Nice.
I'm looking at to and from my way, to and from work on like the transit system, and it's not morning music, but like you get these like very dark, heavy
Yeah.
synths like envelop and wrap around each other, and then you have the beautiful piano ballad, and then horrifying sounds, like German choir, and it's really interesting, but it sets you in like a weird place on your way to work.
I couldn't even like I feel like the funny thing would be is just like you listening to it and other people like just doing their normal life thing and they're just like I wonder what that guy's listening to and then like you hear it and it's like that's what you're listening to and they're like oh okay like like
Yeah,
completely be thrown off by it.
Yeah, like if I was one of those guys who instead of having headphones
They
and
just
like
wore the have
completely
like just these, but like just had them out like constantly and just
yeah,
like have the audio just like blaring.
just blaring those weird noises and be like, yeah, you know, I'd wear them, but it's not comfortable and it's cold out, so like I want to be out.
Any excuse to have music playing, I think is a good one, regardless of how stupid it may look to everybody else. But um, the next question, Dan, is a fun one. If you could pick
Okay.
a song to cover, what would it be?
Well, I've thought about it a lot recently.
There you
Uh,
go. Well, it's a perfect segue to give your
uh,
answer.
I know, right? Because it's an incredibly difficult option. And I think a lot about covers because like there's songs that really resonate with you that you want to do just to share with people who maybe haven't heard it, or just to be like, I really love this song and I want to play it.
Yeah.
But fighting the compulsion to like completely make it your own, or to just do a complete lift cover of it. I've been working at the song Silver Stallion by the Highwaymen.
Okay.
And this is like a like an outlaw country song from the 80s with like Johnny Cash and Chris Christopherson. I think
Interesting.
Willie Nelson's in it. Yeah. It's like it was like the Traveling Wilburys but cooler. Um, and yeah, they that song, I've heard Cat Power cover it on a record jukebox, and it's a really really nice song. It's very moving and beautiful. And I was felt compelled to try a version of it after listening a lot to Orville Peck.
Okay.
Am I saying it right? Is it Orville or is it Orville? Um,
Close enough, if anything.
yeah. Um, who I also learned recently is Canadian. I know that. I think he's from Calgary or something. Interesting character. But yeah, I really liked his stuff and got back into like I think somebody put like a YouTube video saying essentially the thesis of the video was like country music starting to get good again, and they're using Orville Peck as an example, and then they went through like the history of country music when it was awesome, when it was Johnny Cash and Townes Van Zandt and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Dolly Parton. Like Dolly Parton, man. I used to think there was just like kind of joke around Dolly Parton. Like seeing, I think the only thing I knew about her was on The Simpsons, and she just had
Yeah.
like big hair and funny person. I
Oh
didn't know
man.
any of her music, so I just thought, Dollywood. Like I thought it was kind of silly, and then I heard Jolene, and it just knocks
Yeah.
you back. Like it's an incredible song. Um, so I wanted to try a version of that, and I thought about uploading it to SoundCloud. Like I wanted to try like a very un-output style, which was not like caustic and oppressively musical and heavy with delay and reverb and overdrive. I wanted to try something relatively straightforward with it, and I don't know if I like it, but that
Who
was the
knows?
song like I'm gonna challenge myself on.
Maybe with enough support from people that watch this interview, maybe inspire you to post it. But if you have any suggestions for Dan, you should leave them in the comments. I'm sure he will check them out and possibly may or may not do a cover of said song that you pick. So please be nice and not do some very elaborate extraneous sort of song.
Yeah, if somebody suggests Robin, I'll consider taking that challenge. Was it Dancing on My Own? I think was one of her big
I
ones.
believe
Yeah, I've wondered if I could like again ape the National and do like a very sad like thinking about poor decisions in my life while in my body alone. Uh, that's a Felix Baderman quote. He like describes a bunch of sad musicians, and the National was like, yeah, being sad in your Audi, but not crying because you're from the Great Lakes. Um, and as a fan of the National, a big fan of the National, I really appreciate that. That was a great summary.
Yeah, self-deprecation at its finest.
Yeah.
But my next question, the again, continue the lighter path, is favorite food to eat. What is the go-to meal?
Um, so there's this pizza place that I think started in Vancouver
Okay,
or Portland. It's
one
there
of
as
the
well.
two. It's
Yeah,
the West
one.
Coast.
Yeah, yeah.
Close enough.
Um,
Yeah.
it's called Virtuous Pie. It's a it's a gourmet vegan pizzeria,
Nice.
and most of the stuff. I don't think I've tried anything on the menu where I thought that's disgusting. Uh,
That's
it's
good.
all
That's
yeah.
usually the point of hopefully going to restaurants is not get something that's disgusting, but I'll let you continue.
Yeah, yeah. I because I think the only two like it's one of two vegan pizzerias here,
Okay.
and everyone else just has like an option, and their options range from, yeah, that's all right, to that's disgusting, and like I don't blame people for not knowing how to make vegan food if you're not vegan. Like I don't ever expect anyone to do that. Um, but yeah, Virtuous Pie, they just took it to a whole other level. Like every choice, they're incredibly different, and they're delicious, or savory or spicy. And yeah, I'm not gonna pick one. I'm just gonna just if you're in Toronto, go to Virtuous Pie. It's on College Street, across from the Royal Theatre. You go to see The Room or whatever they're playing, and then go for
There you
oh,
go. Well,
they do drunk feminist theater. They're not theater, but like they do like drinking games, and they're
uh,
readings and stuff. So like they'll pick a movie like Love Actually,
oh boy.
and then they'll have the rules. They're just shitting on everything that's wrong with the movie. um, and yeah, like, and then you can do that, and then get while you're like either before you get drunk at that or after when you need something to soak up the amount of booze that you've consumed. Um, Virtuous Pie, it's incredible.
There you go. Well,
Your stomach will thank you, as
I'm
will your
sure it will. And Virtuous Pizza, you should definitely sponsor my man Dan here. Because I feel like he really gave you that sell. Like he was really selling you on here. So I feel like just at the very least, he deserves a slice or two from you guys. I'm just saying that's my personal opinion. You know, I'm just a YouTuber, so I really don't make the rules of the road here. But I feel like I feel like it is deserved. You know what I mean? From somebody from New Jersey where pizza is very prevalent. I have to tip my hat or beanie to Dan here. So do it. I will definitely, if they have a Twitter account, I will, as soon as this goes live, I will at them and beat them the timestamp.
I humbly and aggressively agree. I deserve a free pizza.
I would hope that you would agree, because if not, then I feel like my whole pitch went down the drain. But regardless of the point, Dan, we're gonna continue moving it on, and obviously we're here for the music. So the next question is related, of course. If you could pick somebody to collaborate with, whether it be a guest vocalist on your next record or somebody you'd like to work with, or a producer you'd like to work with in the future.
Um, there's a there's a band here called Hot Lips. They're based out of
Okay.
here. Um, and their singer's a friend of mine who, before she formed Hot Lips, we were gonna try working something out, but I kind of fell off. Um, I think I just got overwhelmed and took on too many things at once. But
Sure. Yeah, I know that feeling.
I apologized to her later. I was like, I'm sorry. I know you're incredibly successful right now, and I really respect you. She's an amazing musician, singer, drummer, um, keys player. She's just awesome. Carly Forget. That would be like a local person that I'd want to work with.
Okay.
Um, I would love to work with Anna Calvi, even just like doing backup vocals in some way, or doing, like in the back of a record that's like way off in the left of the mix, the left, um, or Tanya Tagaq. I don't think I am anywhere near capable enough to play on a live show with Tanya Tagaq, but I've seen it, it's incredible, and I want to be a part of it in some way. Uh,
There we go.
yeah.
Great answers. Hot Lips, if you watch this too, like feel free to DM me. I'd love to have you on because I'm all about the different variety of stuff on here, and you definitely do that collaboration because I feel like Dan really wants to do it. So I'm all about bringing the people together here. So hopefully we can make it happen.
I think they're playing tonight actually, Hot Lips. They go on the next 2 hours or so. They're doing like a fundraiser for like a breast cancer research
Okay,
charity.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah, Hot Lips are awesome. People will in Toronto will have heard of them
Oh, I'm
long
sure.
before they've heard of Output 111. But yeah, they put on an awesome show. They're great.
Awesome, awesome. Speaking about putting on an awesome show, in your opinion, who puts on a great live performance, and I guess in terms of bands that you've seen live?
Um, trying to not repeat all the same answers. Uh, yeah, I had a great time at yeah. I'll go back to Thundercat.
Okay.
Like every band that I've said, like one of the main reasons why I've connected with them so much is from seeing them live. Like not just hearing their music and like, excuse me, like wrapping myself in their lyrics or their tones or whatever. But uh, yeah, Thundercat at the Danforth Music Hall, which is like a just big open space. Um, and just him and two other guys just essentially not stopping. Like I don't think the drummer takes a break. Like I don't think there's any between song moment. I think he just transitions immediately to the next one for 2 hours. Um, it's just a really fun, very silly because Thundercat has like a very wonderful, silly um, sense of humor and just a great stage presence. Um, just watching any of those musicians just rip. Uh, that was a great one. Recently saw Kamasi Washington and Herbie Hancock play.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, so like Kamasi was on first, and that was surprisingly the more accessible of the show. Like I didn't have very much outside of like Chameleon and Watermelon Man. I didn't have a lot of exposure to Herbie Hancock's work.
Yeah.
And like the first thing he did was just like make every section of the crowd do waves and then sit down and play like weird spooky synths. Whereas everyone just went it was all the band just went nuts. Um it was an incredible piece. And then they came out in the end and did like Herbie was on the guitar and Kamasi came out and they did like a showdown. I think with
Oh, that's sick.
Chameleon, yeah. That was a lot of fun, and they're just like egging each other on. Like it's awesome to see musicians like laugh on
Yeah,
stage.
no,
Playing,
absolutely.
they are playing. Um, it's either that or like when an artist has like 1,000 yard stare and like they lock right onto you, and you're like, "Whoa," they're like staring right through you, but you're like, oh, I feel special. Um, like if they're either playing and you're connecting with how they play, or if they're engaged so deeply with the performance and the music and the
Yeah.
subject matter. Yeah, it can. Oh, it's so different. It's amazing. PJ Harvey was also a great show. Like her recent lineup. It's like her and a bunch of guys in their 50s, all playing sax or drums at the
Oh,
same.
sick.
Yeah, that was a really cool one.
I was gonna say, since you kind of mentioned those artists, if you haven't heard of them, you should check out Snarky Puppy. I don't know if you've heard of them or not. If you're a fan
I've
of
heard the
like
name.
more jazz stuff, they're fantastic. For those of you who haven't checked them out, like them and they used to go by the name Reign of Kindo, but now they're just Kindo. They're really good too.
Yeah.
You like more of that jazz stuff, but I figured like since it was off the top of my head and I could think of it before I forgot about it, that I'd say it now. But yeah, those are ones that should check out. But Kind of following up the best live performance. If you could compile a dream tour, who would be on the lineup? Obviously, this would include your band. I feel like that is remiss if I did not say that, but
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of people are like, "Oh, well, was my band on it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like it's I mean, like that's the dream tour. Like I feel like you'd want to be on it, but if you don't, like, I guess not."
Um, there was a festival here for a couple years called Field Trip,
Okay.
and I think I think there are many festivals quite like it. Like Hillside in Guelph, it sounds like a more uh, legacy version of what Field Trip wanted to be. But yeah, Field Trip was great. It was in central Toronto. There were two stages at this like old military fort or training
Cool.
fort, and yeah, there was like kids under a certain age got in free, and they had headphones, and that was one of the times where we saw Thundercat and Feist were playing on the same day,
Oh, sick.
and then after Feist was Bad Bad Not Good, um, and yeah, like you can just like I love that kind of festival where there's like amazing music that's exciting and you can get right into it. Um, but there's also like you can pull back, have a drink with some friends, or you can just like when Thundercat was playing, we were just singing in the bar area and like in perfect lines, so we could hear everything. No, not a great view. But like I looked over and there was like a family and the dad just like picked up his like 4-year-old kid and just started spinning them around. And I thought like, that's an incredible kind of experience to have with your kids is like
Yeah.
taking your kids to see live music, no matter what it is. I think Output 111 would either be too terrifying or too uncomfortable. Like I understand if people hear this song and think, I don't want my kid to experience an existential crisis at least until they turn 14, which I will respect parents' choice. Um, yeah, I am weary of like picking um, bands for that though. Like I think Anna Calvian and Tiny Tagak and Hot Lips would be really cool to uh, to be on a show for, and I would happily open for them because I'm not at any of their levels. Uh, I don't want to pick like um, the musicians that I've looked up to for an incredibly long time, like the ones that have followed me through high school and university, because I don't want to meet them. You know,
Interesting.
like I went to a Nick Cave conversation show not long ago, and it was great. And I didn't ask. I put my hand up to ask a question because I was like, why the hell not? Let's try. And I didn't get there, but I'm kind of glad that I didn't. And I think that's just part of like an internalized anxiety over like not just allowing yourself to have that sort of elevated image of somebody like you've already developed it and you've internalized it like part of me just feels like I wouldn't be enough, whereas like if I'm at and I actually feel the same way about the bands that I have listed for shows. Like if I was at a show and I saw Anna Calvi and I met her, or Tiny Tagak and I met her, I wouldn't really know what to say. I would just be like, "Hi, Daniel. I'm not as good as you. I hope to be. Anyway, I gotta go open the show." But like I wouldn't. Yeah, even though like when we talk about relating to people and having a human moment, and you can get that in the performance, there's something that just sort of like locks up internally, and I think that just may be part of idolizing somebody or taking so much influence from them that it's hard to see them as that person, like that human.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Very, very, very interesting. That is
like a
probably that was
way of.
very much a first for me, at least like perspectively. Like, I mean, I feel like most people would want to. They're like meant like people that inspired them to do certain things. Uh, it's crazy because like I had thought like that for like a long time, and then I had the opportunity to interview one of my favorite bands
Oh, cool.
at the beginning of this year, which was awesome. Uh, and so I feel like maybe just my opportunity was like happenstance and it was nice for that reason alone.
Yeah.
I but at the same point, I also can like at first when you started saying it, I was like, I don't know if I really get it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like everybody that I've met have been like really cool, receptive, and stuff like that. But at the same point, I'm like, I could understand that though. Like, I could understand like if somebody that you like really enjoy or inspires you to not at your expectation or may not feel that certain way about meeting them or whatever. I
Yeah.
I think that I respect that a lot because it's like I feel like people aren't willing to like be upfront about that sort of thing. Like they're just like, yeah, of course. Like even if they are like nervous to like meet them or whatever, they're like, yeah, no, 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 I definitely want to meet them, and then just be like, kind of like basically like break down and like have like a moment, you know what I mean? And I respect that you're like, yeah, I wouldn't want to do that for that reason, basically, just so like I can like have that image of them instilled in me, not like if I meet them and they're not up to my expectation, then like, oh man, that's a huge letdown. So I do respect that answer a lot. It just at first it didn't click, and now I'm getting it as the more that I think about it and talk about it now. So that's I appreciate it. I appreciate that, Dan. But
I
the
find the more I ramble, the more I actually get to like and
the end goal.
you know, honestly, I also think that because I take so much influence from like especially from somebody who I've listened to for so much of my
Yeah,
life,
sure.
I'm not sure if it would make a good show. You know, like
Okay.
it may just be like, okay, this is the Bad Seeds Junior, and this is the guy who really likes Tom York, or this is the guy who like really admires this person. This is the guy who wants to play guitar like Annie Clark or something, and then it's that person.
Yeah.
It's sort of strange. Whereas like I'm at a stage in my life where I really appreciate and I love Anna Calvi's work, but I know I'm not writing anything that's too similar to her. Like I'm
I
taking some
gotcha.
inspiration from her and I'm learning some new guitar moves trying to like play her songs just in my own time. But I'm not like I'm not at a point where I'm like writing like rock music.
Yeah, I
Like,
gotcha.
and she's like of a very particular like she's rock adjacent, I think. She's cool rock. She's too cool to be called rock. But uh but yeah, like and I write something that I consider to be like ostensibly rock, like there are rock elements to it, but it's not uh consistently rock. Um and I think that might make a bit more of an interesting kind of set list.
No, yeah. No, I think I always love when, everybody's kind of in the same boat but also have like different ways of paddling. I know that sounds like a terrible metaphor, but um it's just cool to see everybody kind of like bonded over the same sort of musical genre and then obviously put their own spin and like flavoring onto it that makes it like unique to them. And so whenever I go to shows, I don't feel like if there's just like one lineup where everybody kind of sounds, you know, very close or within an nth degree of each other, then I'm like, that maybe might not be as interesting as somebody that like sets up a tour and it's just like they all have like a commonality, but they're also all very different. I think that's when I enjoy a show, like you were saying earlier. That's what I enjoy a show the most is when it's like close but not too close in terms of like position in terms of like I guess I think that's brings out the best, and I think it also like warrants like bands to want to get new fans from the people that came, I guess, for like the headliner act or whatever. And
Yeah.
so I think that's really cool. So I again appreciate the perspective on that one, Dan, as well. You just hit me with the knowledge tonight, I guess, and I like that one. But the next thing, Dan, Another fun one, of course. Favorite TV show, favorite movie. Have one.
Um, trying to think. Um, I really liked I really liked the Blade Runner sequel. Came out
Oh, the
recently,
2043, I think.
49, yeah.
49. I can't count, so I'm glad you backed me up on that.
Yeah, no worries, man, no worries. Um, yeah, it was, like, I felt like it was a movie that actually, like, it it took what was special about the original, um, and then, really just expanded upon it or
Yeah.
improved. I also thought it was an interesting, like, I feel like it's one of those movies that if you're, like, if you're in, like, graduate school, you can write, like, a pretty interesting thesis on it as a criticism of, like, uh, old Hollywood, or um, the evolution of, like, Hollywood's chauvinism from, like, original Hollywood up until now. And that was just a really pretentious thought that I only came up with recently when I was just walking to the bank. But, yeah, I thought it was more emotional of an experience, whereas, like, in Blade Runner, it's the original one, it's very cerebral, um, Roy Batty's, like, Tears in the Rain speech, like the Roy Batty's, like, final speech,
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
monologue, and that's, like, the emotional gut punch of the movie, uh, and that's why it's so effective in that one. But this one, uh, it carries a more interesting story, I think, as well, and the way that they handle the visual aspect of it, it's still, even though you're operating in a market that's loaded with explosive, effects-driven films, you know, Marvel movies, essentially replacing, like, the action movies of the '80s, uh, right down to, like, military endorsements. And you're seeing a movie like this where it's very vivid, and there's a lot of special effect going, like,
Yeah.
special
Yeah.
effects all over the place in it. But it's creating a world. It's not just for the spectacle, it's for the invitation into the story.
Yeah.
I would say that, or trying to think, Moonlight was a pretty cool movie. I saw that at a review theater not far up the road, and I saw that with my partner, and she was crying afterwards. And these two, like, old ladies in front of us just, like, got up, like, after the movie went, like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, is that, monsters?" Like, everything about that movie, like the soundtrack, the performance, the story, like Janelle Monáe in that movie. Uh, yeah, it was just awesome.
Just the
And
juxtaposition of that story is awesome.
yeah, yeah, and then just having those two old ladies be like, "All right, what do you want to do now?
No
Get some
problem.
tea?"
We can live life
All
now. And your partner's like,
right.
oh my God, this is so sad. They're just like, you want to get some ice cream after this? Let's go get some ice cream. And then, like, jollily, or like, skip out of the movie.
Yeah, and I'm telling the story, like, pretending like I wasn't, crying as well, and I'm pretty certain I was, like,
I
if
feel
I'm
that.
yeah, like, it's kinda hard to you have to be a very particular person to, like, not be moved by that movie, and then to just get up casually and go get some cheese. Um, yeah, those, was it movie or and TV show?
TV show, correct.
Okay.
Is that
Uh,
harder?
I mean, there's so
So
damn much.
many.
Um, I like the Avatar cartoons.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Legend of
We
Korra.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. We started rewatching the original show on Netflix, and, yeah, it's, the pilot episode is so slow and, like, calm.
Yeah.
It's quiet, and it's amazing comparing that to, like, pretty much anything else is very
Yeah.
colorful and
TV
bright.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, even the adult stuff, like, I was watching that, and I've been slowly finishing Daredevil, and it's not from like any sense of I need to finish this. It's like, I started this,
Let's
not
finish
like,
it.
yeah, fish. It was like I liked Charlie Cox in it. I thought he was well cast, but like it's eh.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm glad you mentioned Avatar because I feel like not a lot of people talk about it, whether or not like they've seen it or not. And if you haven't, like definitely go see it. I know we're like an hour plus into this interview, so if you made it this far, you are a real trooper.
Yeah.
Um, but that I feel like that show doesn't get enough love. As well as that is like I've watched some episodes here and there recently of like stuff, just like the episodes throughout like the season, or if it's like on Nickelodeon or whatever, just like up super late. And I didn't realize how, like, as a kid watching it, I didn't realize how like strong the like storyline was in terms of
Yeah.
like just like deep sort of like metaphysical sort of like things going on in the TV show, like how you like mentally like process stuff, like the bigger like adult themes that like you're just like, wow, this kid's really cool. He could shoot air from his hands and his feet. He can make this like ball that he could sit on and rides around on it. And you're just like engrossed by like that. And then now being like older and hopefully slightly a little bit wiser now, I watch it and I'm like, wow, there's some really like deep themes in this TV series that's supposedly like a kid's series. And so
Yeah.
I have to show a lot of respect to that TV series in general, and that and Korra, just because I feel like the people who write those things are just like phenomenal.
Yeah, it's like the sense of character. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, there's a big overarching story that, it's exciting and it's fun and it's serious. It gets like, even the one that seems a bit more like kid friendly is pretty serious.
yeah,
And it handles, like the darkness of war, quite maturely, respectfully. There's a great episode. I think it's called Tales from Ba Sing Se.
yes, yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah,
what I was gonna mention. Yeah,
yeah. And it's obviously gonna have a greater impact if you've watched every episode up until then. But there's this one that's just dedicated to Iroh, and it's just like him going around the city living his life. And it's a beautiful little story.
yeah, absolutely,
Um,
100%.
yeah. But yeah, yeah, I guess Avatar, right? At least right now.
There we
Um,
go. Well,
yeah,
if you come back on, you can always feel free to change your answer. You're not locked and loaded onto that answer exclusively. I mean, you may be for whatever time period we decide to reconvene and do another one, but I feel like you are your own person. You can make decisions on your
yeah.
own.
Next
Uh,
time will be really obvious, and I'll say like Peaky Blinders or The Handmaid's Tale. I'd be like, listen to the music. It's clear I'm really into that kind of show. Like, I am. I'm not gonna lie about it, but yeah, I'm just really enjoying Avatar recently.
there you
Glow.
go.
Oh, really good show.
That's great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Next question, Dan. You're trapped on a desert island for the next month, and there was one record you could bring with you. What would it be?
Oh, so it's just the next month? It's not
Just
like,
uno month, one
oh,
month.
okay. This is
I feel like for the rest of your life is a little bit rough, you know what I mean? Because I feel like when I ask questions and stuff, I want to put myself in my shoes essentially,
yeah.
and I just feel like a long time, you know, whether it be a year or like forever, a very tough answer. So I felt like a month was at least sustainable.
That's a fair point.
Enough time. It's enough time, you know.
I feel like um can you say like the lo-fi chill playlist
Oh
on
my god,
on YouTube?
this is so, oh my god, that's so strange because I think it has to have been within the same month or
Yeah.
maybe last month, but somebody had said the same exact answer. But I love it though, so I'll
Yeah,
let
like,
you use your explanation for it.
all right. So like I was thinking something, either something that's not lyrically driven, or if it features vocals, it's unintelligible, like perhaps in a language I don't understand,
Okay.
which most languages. Um, I I was thinking like something that you could just escape into or have in the background and relax. Like if it was one of those 10-hour tone videos that they have that you just have in the background, and, like it's supposed to be meditative, but it's also just, it's just kind of soothing.
Nice. Yeah.
You're gonna be stressed out. Like I don't
You don't
wanna,
want to be stressed out. You want to have a peaceful time. So you
yeah,
just put on the study and chill lo-fi beat for the next 36 hours.
yeah, there's a lot of music in there, so like
You do.
it's
You're right.
gonna take a while for it to get repetitive. But yeah, like I wanted something, not something that would, like a hold deeply to me because I don't want to get sick of it.
Got you.
Especially if it's only like a half hour or 45-minute record. And I'm gonna want to listen to music a lot because I'm gonna want to escape. And I was thinking classical might be nice, but something didn't, I couldn't pull a name right.
You're just thinking the lo-fi hip hop beats study to is just the go-to.
Yeah, man, it's like it just
It's
makes
great
everything
though.
like we put on at work, and it just makes work is not necessarily a desert island, but it can be stressful.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Um, and sometimes you can just be like, I'm gonna, put this on and
Work
allow
with that.
myself to space. Yeah, I think the first song was like when I was actually thinking of records, my brain, I was like, "What's an interesting answer?" And then I went the songs of love and hate, and I'm like, "No, I think it's only like 45 minutes." Um, and yeah, and then there's also like one of those, like the dress rehearsal rag is a bit too on the nose for like what you're gonna feel when you're trapped on desert island, even for like a couple days.
Okay.
So yeah,
I like the intellectual answer to that, and how you thought that you would not want to completely harm yourself in
please,
the thought
please,
process behind
pseudo intellectual.
it.
I'm not gonna pretend to be something I'm not.
No, I would say you're pretty smart, Dan. But the big thing, the most important thing, as we've been talking about for the last hour plus, how about your band? Where they can find you out on the social medias, and anything coming up in the next couple months.
So we have the EP. It's called Retroactive Rock Record, which is one of those titles, like every title that I've ever come up with, including the band name that I've come up with over the last few years, I've realized is there's a fine line between sounding cool and sounding moronic.
You
Um,
find that you ride the thin red line.
oh yeah, like retroactive rock record can sound really stupid when you say it the right way, and to some people that can just be how I just said it. Um, and to other people, be like, yeah, all right, that's kind of cool. Like kind of the concept of going back and returning to something or doing it. So retroactive rock record, we have coming out the first, which is next Friday. Is that
I
correct?
believe you're
No, it's
correct.
Friday after
The
next.
Friday after that, I think it's two
Oh, the
weeks.
18th. Yeah, yeah.
Close
Man,
enough.
time is elastic, and
Yeah, you're right. There you go.
actually. So we have that coming out. For people who are able to get to Toronto, we are playing it today, tonight, on Thursday, the 24th at 9. And if you're people my age who have jobs in the morning, we're playing a relatively early enough show. And for people who want to get, loaded afterwards, Parkdale has a wonderful selection of late night bars. Night is a great venue to hang out and spend time with and listen to. Well, that night will be my music, but anything else. Um, we're on Instagram, which is the one I'm most active on. It's I think it's Output 111. It's the least difficult social media to grab. Was it? We're on Facebook and Twitter. I think Twitter we're just Output One or underscore Output One, and SoundCloud. So the EP will be available. I believe we're gonna have it on Apple and Spotify. And I'm personally gonna So I'm like I have that through a distributor. I think it's CD Baby. I think I'm doing
Okay.
with.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna upload it to SoundCloud because it was a DIY record. For anyone who has the funds and is able to purchase it, we're of course I'm gonna appreciate that. But if anyone connects to what I went through in the process of writing the material, I want to make sure it's accessible. And Spotify is to a point. Like if you don't have, like I don't have a paid account. I just listen to it on browser. Um,
I
and
know that feeling.
Yeah, I don't want it eating up my data.
I got you.
Yeah. Whereas SoundCloud is, it's free. And if people want to email me directly, like I'll send them like a simple, not, at a point, if I get like 100 emails, which I don't think I'm going to get anytime soon. I'm going to stay modest, but if I
Within
get,
reason.
yeah, within reason, if I get like 3 emails and they're like, hey man, I don't have data. Can you, but I'd like to listen. Yeah, totally. I would absolutely do that. Yeah, I don't want anyone who's been through a position where I've been through to actually write music that sounds like this to feel compelled to pay if they don't have the ability to. So it's going to be on SoundCloud on the 1st as well. It's just a platform I like right now. We also have a website, which is a bunch of letters. It is output111.com, all letters. Because the numbers, the numbers, output 1 or output.com were clearly taken. Like I took a name that was like, no one else is going to have that name. It's a ridiculous name. And I'm going to make it sound cool. And if you're not going to confuse it for anything on Google, but you're also going to have a hell of a time trying to type it.
Yeah. That is very true. But regardless of its ease of use or ease of typing ability, you should check out Output 111. All of the links will be in the description because I search for all that crap and I put it all in the description so that you don't have to. So you're welcome, internet, in advance. In advance, you're welcome. Also, massive shout outs to Erica over at Muddy Paw. They're the best. Love those guys, gals. They're the best. So I gotta give them some love. But if you enjoyed this interview, this hour, almost close to an hour and a half long interview, make sure to share it. You like it, subscribe, and make sure to tweet at the pizzeria that Dan loves because I don't have very good short-term memory, so I obviously forgot it, and I'm just trying to.
It was pie.
I'm just trying to backpedal a little bit, just because I feel like I don't want to sound like an idiot, even though I'm still talking. But you should definitely pander to that pizzeria in Toronto that I'm totally forgetting about, but I will not forget about hopefully when this goes live. So check that out. And like I said, thanks for subscribing, thanks for liking and sharing, and thanks mostly to Dan for coming on and chatting.
Thanks, man. I had a great time.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Of course, if you enjoy what we do, make sure to go check out the other series we do. We do album reviews, we do band interviews, and we do live videos, so definitely go check that out. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps our channel, helps us grow. Make sure to hit that like button as well. Go follow us on social media. That's all down below. We try to keep that as updated as possible. We also made a new website where we'll be posting photos of upcoming concerts and stuff like that, which you can go check out at audioaddictionmedia.com and come get your fix with us, guys. Talk to you later. Deuces.